When Barack Obama took office 3 years ago, he said this about the economy, and I quote, "If I don't have this thing done in 3 years, then there's going to be a one-term proposition." Well, here we are 3 years later, and yes, Mr. President, I agree. For once, it should be a one-term proposition. Not only does Obama not have the job done, but his liberal policies have made our economy, our country, and our future worse. How about that stimulus? How's that working for you, Mr. President? Almost $900 billion in new spending for your cronies, billions in new welfare checks and big government programs, and more than $1 trillion of new debt. And the job deficit between what he promised us and what he delivered, now hold on to your seats, is 13 million Americans without a job. 13 million jobs short. And how about the health care law? It's going to cost more, deliver less, and trample on your liberties along the way. Kathleen Sebelius will make certain of that. Neither your pocketbook, nor your privacy, nor your religious views are safe. And how about that pledge to be the most open and transparent administration in history? From czars to Obamacare waivers, to Fast and Furious, to Solyndra, the list of corrupt and covert dealings goes on and on and on. Do as I say, not as I do, is the mission statement, I believe, of this White House. After all, this president can't help himself but to lambaste Wall Street, but then take their money and appoint them to positions in his administration. Even though the ink of a dye pack is probably still drying on John Corzine's hands, the president's reelection campaign still can count on about $500,000 in contributions from the former governor, yes, a Democrat, you never hear that, senator from New Jersey. And oh, by the way, I don't have a huge background in Greek, but the original translation of Corzine is crook. Washington is infected, ladies and gentlemen, with many bad ideas, and they're not just from Democrats, though. Republicans have more than their fair share, too. Last year's bipartisan debt deal comes to mind. America has $2.1 trillion more in debt and not a single cut to show for it. In fact, Washington will borrow and spend that $2.1 trillion before January and need to borrow more before we even get into 2013, before we make any cuts. That didn't work out very well. You know, and too many Republicans also don't want to deal with the difficult decisions on spending, on Social Security and Medicare, and I might say even on labor unions. The day after Governor Walker's huge victory, more than 50 Republicans voted to continue to help labor unions with Davis-Bacon requirements. Now, the real difference, though, in Washington, I believe, is between the establishment and everybody else. Those who have been around Washington for a long time are all too often intent on staying there and increasing their power there, no matter what the cost to you and me, and oftentimes no matter the party. This past week, the Congressional Budget Office came before my Budget Committee and said this: the stimulus package worked. I said, now, Mr. Director, we're 13 million jobs short of what you promised would happen. How does that mean it worked? He said, well, I did a survey, or someone did a survey of 4 out of 5 economists believed it worked. It's that old adage, sure, it didn't work in practice, Congressman Huelskamp, but how does it work in theory? Stimulus and bailout programs didn't work in 2009 for Obama, or in 2007 or 2008 for Mr. Bush, and it certainly didn't work in the Great Depression for Mr. Roosevelt, and it won't work now. About the only place in America where people still believe big government works is the echo chamber of Washington, and in those ivory towers across America, and of course, newspaper editorial boards. To the common sense folks of America in tune with reality like you all, it's obvious that Obama is one of the most disastrous big government experiences ever. We don't need more spending. We don't need more regulation. We don't need more taxes. We need more freedom, more liberty, and we need more conservatives in Washington. Friends, few people in Washington want to look back and say something didn't work and God forbid, be responsible for that. But thank goodness it's not up to them. It's up to us, the American people, to judge their actions and judge their policies, whether they're the president, whether it's a Democrat or Republican. Friends, the future of our nation depends on that. Thank you, and God bless America.